Finn's heart thudded against his ribs, a frantic Morse code spelling out words he could never say aloud. He was 22, fresh out of community college with a barista gig that barely covered his half of the rent on this rundown Queen and bungalow, and here was Ethan, his older brother by 6 years, crashing back into his life like a storm off Puget Sound. Ethan had shown up 2 weeks ago, duffel bags slung over one shoulder, his easy grin masking the fresh divorce papers tucked in his wallet. "Just need a place to crash till I get on my feet," he'd said, clapping Finn on the back hard enough to jolt the air from his lungs. But Finn knew better. Their parents were gone. Mom to cancer 3 years back, Dad to a heart attack chasing one too many double shifts at the Boeing plant. And this house in Seattle's foggy hills was all they had left of family. It was supposed to be a bridge, not a battlefield. That first night, Ethan had claimed the couch, sprawling out with a beer in hand, recounting tales from his failed marriage in Austin like they were punchlines to a joke only he got. Finn had nodded along, stirring pasta in the tiny kitchen, stealing glances at the way Ethan's t-shirt stretched across his chest, the fabric worn thin from too many washes. Ethan was built like the Pacific, broad and unyielding, with sun-kissed skin from his construction days and forearms corded from hauling rebar under Texas skies. His hair was a darker shade of brown than Finn's, cropped short but always a little wild, and his laugh could fill a room, deep and rumbling like thunder rolling in from the Olympics. Finn envied that laugh, the way it drew people in without effort. He himself was slighter, all sharp angles and quiet intensity, with hazel eyes that people said looked haunted even on good days. By the end of the week, the couch became a formality. Ethan started lingering after dinner, plates stacked in the sink, the two of them sinking into the worn leather sectional to binge old episodes of Friday Night Lights. Ethan's pick, because Texas blood, man. Finn would curl up on one end, knees drawn to his chest, while Ethan stretched out, feet propped on the coffee table, occasionally nudging Finn's thigh with his socked toe. "You still rooting for the Dillon Panthers?" Ethan would tease, and Finn would mutter something sarcastic, his skin tingling from the contact long after it ended. It was the power outage that changed everything. Seattle's autumn storms had rolled in fierce that Friday, winds whipping through the evergreens like they were punishing the city for existing. Finn had come home soaked from his shift at the corner cafe on Capitol Hill, the kind of place where hipsters ordered oat milk lattes with names like the existential drizzle. He shook out his umbrella in the entryway, calling Ethan's name into the dark house. No answer. The power was out, the fridge humming to a stop, and in the flicker of his phone flashlight, he found Ethan in the living room, shirtless because, damn, it's humid even here, wrestling with a camp lantern from their dad's old gear. Lost the bet with the storm? Ethan grinned, his chest rising with the effort, a sheen of sweat making his skin glow in the low light. Finn swallowed hard, busying himself with lighting candles scavenged from the junk drawer, scented ones Mom had hoarded, vanilla and lavender clashing in the air. They ate cold sandwiches by candlelight at the kitchen table, the flame dancing shadows across Ethan's face, highlighting the faint scar above his left eyebrow from a childhood bike crash they'd both laughed about 1,000 times. But tonight, the laughter felt edged, like glass underfoot. As the night deepened and the rain turned to a relentless sheet, Ethan yawned, stretching his arms overhead until his muscles flexed in a way that made Finn's throat dry. "Couch is gonna be a swamp with this leak," Ethan said, nodding toward the ceiling where a drip had started, pattering into a pot on the floor. "Mind if I crash in your room? Bed's big enough for 2 linebackers." Finn's pulse spiked, but he shrugged it off, mumbling, "Yeah, sure, whatever." Inside, his mind raced. Ethan's room was the old office, a futon and boxes, but Finn's queen bed was the only real one left. They climbed the creaky stairs in silence, the house groaning under the wind's assault. Finn changed in the bathroom, pulling on boxers and a t-shirt, his reflection in the mirror showing flushed cheeks he blamed on the chill. When he slipped back in, Ethan was already under the covers, propped on one elbow, scrolling his phone. And he was shirtless. Just like that, no preamble, his broad back to the door, the sheet draped low on his hips. Finn's breath hitched audibly, and Ethan glanced over his shoulder, eyes catching the candlelight from the hallway. "You good, little bro?" The words were casual, but there was a weight to them, a knowing glint in Ethan's green eyes that made Finn's stomach twist. Finn slid under the covers on his side, the mattress dipping under Ethan's weight, pulling them closer than physics demanded. The space between them hummed with unspoken energy, the air thick with the storm's ozone and Ethan's clean sweat. Finn lay rigid, staring at the ceiling cracks that mapped out like veins, his body hyper-aware of every shift, Ethan's leg brushing his under the sheet, the heat radiating from his side like a furnace. Minutes stretched into eternities, the rain a white noise that drowned out Finn's thundering heart. He didn't know when it happened. Maybe an hour in, when Ethan's breathing evened out into sleep, but Finn turned his head, just a fraction. And there it was, the curve of Ethan's shoulder blade, the dip of his spine vanishing into shadow. Up close, Ethan wasn't just his brother. He was a landscape Finn had mapped in secret since puberty hit like a freight train. The first time Finn had realized he was gay, it was during a family camping trip in the Cascades, watching Ethan chop wood shirtless, axe swinging with effortless grace. Finn had been 15, hiding behind a tree with a magazine he'd swiped from Dad's truck. But it was Ethan's laugh echoing through the pines that had sealed it. Wrong, twisted, but undeniable. Now, in the dark sanctuary of his childhood bedroom, posters of indie bands peeling from the walls, a stack of unread novels on the nightstand, Finn let his eyes trace the lines of Ethan's body. The sheet had slipped lower, exposing the dimples at the base of his spine, the faint trail of hair disappearing beneath fabric. Finn's hand twitched, inches from reaching out, from bridging the gap with fingertips that trembled at the thought. What if Ethan woke? What if he didn't? The questions coiled in Finn's gut, hot and poisonous. Ethan stirred then, rolling onto his back with a soft sigh, one arm flopping across the pillow toward Finn. His face turned, lips parted slightly, eyelashes fanned against his cheeks. In sleep, he looked younger, vulnerable, the lines of worry from his divorce smoothed away. Finn's chest ached with it. The love that had always been there, familial and fierce, now laced with something sharper, hungrier. He wanted to protect Ethan from the world that had chewed him up and spit him out. But more than that, he wanted to be the one Ethan turned to in the night, the one whose touch erased the ghosts. The storm peaked outside, thunder rumbling like a distant train, and Ethan murmured something incoherent, his hand brushing Finn's wrist. It was accidental, feather-light, but it ignited Finn like dry tinder. He froze, breath shallow, willing his body not to react, not to betray the heat pooling low in his belly. Ethan didn't pull away. If anything, his fingers flexed, a subconscious anchor, and in that touch, Finn heard the echo of every late-night confession they'd shared as kids. Secrets whispered under blankets about schoolyard crushes, dreams of escaping this rainy corner of the world. But those crushes had been girls for Ethan, always girls, while Finn's had lingered on the boy beside him. Sleep evaded Finn until the sky lightened to gray, the rain softening to a patter. Ethan woke first, stretching with a groan that vibrated through the mattress, his bare chest arching as he rubbed his eyes. "Morning sunshine," he mumbled, voice rough with sleep, propping up on an elbow to face Finn. Their eyes met, and for a heartbeat, the air crackled, Ethan's gaze dropping to Finn's lips, then back up, something unreadable flickering there. Knowledge, acceptance, or just brotherly affection, twisted through Finn's desperate lens? "You snore like Dad." Finn shot back, voice steadier than he felt, rolling away to hide the flush creeping up his neck. Ethan laughed, the sound breaking the tension like sunlight through clouds, and slapped Finn's shoulder. Playful, but lingering a second too long. "Guilty. Coffee?" He swung his legs out of bed, standing in just his boxers, unself-conscious as he padded to the door. Finn watched him go, the sway of his hips, the casual grace, and buried his face in the pillow, inhaling the faint trace of Ethan left behind. This was dangerous, this closeness, but as the house filled with the aroma of brewing grounds, Finn couldn't bring himself to regret it. Not yet. The days blurred into a rhythm that felt both comforting and excruciating. Ethan found work quickly. Day labor on a high-rise downtown, his truck rumbling to life at dawn while Finn dragged himself to the cafe for the lunch rush. Evenings were theirs. Takeout from the Thai place on Queen and Avenue, beers cracked open on the back porch overlooking the sloping lawns and fog-shrouded bays. Ethan talked endlessly about Austin, the heat that baked the soul out of you, the ex-wife who traded him for a tech bro with a Tesla. She said I was too rooted. He'd say, staring into his bottle, the word bitter on his tongue. Finn listened, nodding, offering quips that drew Ethan's smile back. But inside, he seethed at the woman who'd hurt him, even his jealousy gnawed at the edges. What would it take to make Ethan see him, really see him? One night, after a particularly brutal shift where Finn had spilled an entire carafe of hot coffee on his apron, he came home to find Ethan in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, attempting Mom's lasagna recipe from a faded index card. The oven light cast a warm glow on his forearms, dusted with flour, and Finn paused in the doorway, struck by the domesticity of it. Figured you needed real food? Ethan said without looking up, sliding the dish into the heat. Not that hipster slop you call lunch. They ate at the table, forks scraping plates, the cheese stretching in gooey strings. Ethan recounted a story from the site. Some rookie dropping a beam, narrowly missing his foot, and Finn laughed until his sides hurt, the sound foreign in his throat. For a moment, it was perfect, the two of them against the world, brothers bound by blood and loss. But then Ethan's knee knocked Finn's under the table, and neither pulled away. The contact lingered, a steady pressure that sent sparks up Finn's thigh, and when he dared to meet Ethan's eyes, there it was again, that knowing look, soft around the edges like he was waiting for Finn to make the first move. The power stayed on that night, but Ethan ended up in Finn's bed anyway. Couch is killing my back, was the excuse, delivered with a wink as he stripped off his shirt in the doorway, tossing it onto the chair. Finn's mouth went dry, but he nodded, changing quickly and slipping under the covers while Ethan brushed his teeth. When the mattress dipped, Finn turned onto his side, facing away, but Ethan's arm draped over the pillow between them, his voice murmuring good night into the dark. Sleep came fitful, dreams tangled with rain and skin, and in the half-light of pre-dawn, Finn woke to find Ethan's chest pressed against his back, spooning him in sleep, innocent, protective, but igniting a fire that burned through Finn's resolve. He lay there, paralyzed, the rise and fall of Ethan's breathing syncing with his own, the heat of bare skin seeping through Finn's thin t-shirt. Ethan's hand rested loosely on Finn's hip, fingers splayed, and Finn bit his lip to stifle the gasp. This was torture, exquisite and unending, the line between brotherly comfort and something more blurring with every shared breath. When Ethan finally stirred, his grip tightened for a fraction of a second, deliberate, aware, before he rolled away with a mumbled apology. Sorry, man. Habit from marriage. But his eyes, when they met Finn's, held no apology, only a challenge. What are you going to do about it? Finn didn't know. Not yet. But as Ethan dressed for work, humming an old Springsteen tune, Finn touched the spot on his hip where warmth lingered, and for the first time, he let himself imagine crossing that line. Not as a fantasy, but as a possibility. The rain had stopped outside, leaving the world washed clean, and in the quiet house, Finn felt the first crack in the dam he'd built around his heart. The following week unfolded like a slow unraveling, each day peeling back layers Finn hadn't known were there. Ethan settled into the house with the ease of someone reclaiming territory, his boots by the door caked in construction dust, his laughter echoing off the vaulted ceilings their dad had built with his own hands. Finn watched it all from the periphery, his shifts at the cafe a welcome distraction. Steaming milk for anxious grad students, wiping counters sticky with syrup, the hum of espresso machines drowning out the whisper of what-ifs. But home was a minefield, every casual touch a detonation waiting to happen. It started small, Ethan borrowing Finn's flannel for a chilly morning, the scent of his cologne lingering on the collar when Finn wore it later, wrapping around him like an embrace. Or the way Ethan would ruffle Finn's hair after a long day, fingers lingering at the nape of his neck, sending shivers down his spine that he masked with a shove and a curse. "Knock it off, asshole." Finn would grumble, but his voice lacked conviction, and Ethan's grin said he knew it. One evening, after a rare dry spell lured them out for a walk along the Burke-Gilman Trail, the air crisp with fallen leaves crunching underfoot, Ethan slung an arm around Finn's shoulders. "Missed this, you know," he said, his voice low against the rustle of the wind through the maples. "Us just being." Finn's heart stuttered, the weight of Ethan's arm grounding and electric, his body molding to Finn's side as they strolled past joggers and dog-walkers silhouetted against the Olympics' jagged horizon. Finn wanted to lean in, to turn his head and press his lips to the pulse at Ethan's throat, but he settled for a nod, words failing him as always. Back home, the tension simmered over dinner. Pizza from the joint on 15th, boxes open on the coffee table, a Seahawks game flickering on the TV. Ethan sprawled shirtless again, claiming the heat from the oven, his skin golden under the lamp's glow. Finn sat cross-legged on the floor, back against the couch, stealing glances at the way Ethan's abs contracted when he laughed at a bad call. "You remember that time Dad bet on the wrong team and had to wear Mom's apron for a week?" Ethan asked, tossing a crust onto the box. Finn chuckled, the memory bittersweet. Dad's booming laugh, Mom's teasing eyes now just echoes in the empty rooms. Yeah. He looked ridiculous. Finn's gaze lingered too long on Ethan's mouth, the way it curved around words, and Ethan paused mid-bite, holding his stare. The room shrank, the game's roar fading to static, until Ethan reached out, thumb brushing a smear of sauce from Finn's lip. The touch was gentle, intimate, his green eyes darkening as he licked the sauce from his thumb without breaking contact. "Messy eater," he murmured, but the words hung heavy, laced with intent. Finn's breath caught, heat flooding his face, and he jerked back, mumbling about needing a shower. In the bathroom, steam clouding the mirror, he stripped down, water scalding his skin as he braced against the tile. His hand drifted lower, wrapping around himself, visions of Ethan flooding his mind. The slide of skin, the taste of salt. He came with a choked gasp, guilt crashing in waves, but even as he toweled off, the ache persisted. This wasn't sustainable. It was a fuse burning down to nothing. The breaking point came on a Thursday, the storm returning with vengeance, lightning fracturing the sky over Lake Union. Finn got home late, drenched and shivering, to find Ethan pacing the living room, phone clutched in his fist. Ex called. He spat when Finn dropped his keys on the sideboard. "Wants to talk reconciliation. Like I didn't catch her with that prick in our bed." His voice cracked on the last word, and Finn's instinct was to comfort, to pull him into a hug like when they were kids and Ethan shielded him from bullies. But this was different, Ethan's vulnerability raw, shirt unbuttoned halfway, chest heaving. Without thinking, Finn stepped forward, hands on Ethan's arms. "She's an idiot. You deserve better." Ethan's eyes searched his, stormy and searching, and then he closed the distance, forehead resting against Finn's, breaths mingling. "What if better's right here?" The whisper was so soft Finn thought he'd imagined it, but Ethan's hands slid to his waist, thumbs circling under his wet shirt, igniting every nerve. Time suspended, the thunder a heartbeat away, and Finn tilted his chin up, lips brushing Ethan's in a ghost of a kiss, tentative testing. Ethan froze, then surged forward, claiming Finn's mouth with a hunger that stole his air. It was messy, desperate, teeth clashing as hands roamed. Finn's fingers tangling in Ethan's hair, Ethan's palms cupping Finn's face like he was something precious. They stumbled back onto the couch, Ethan pulling Finn onto his lap, the kiss deepening into exploration, tongues sliding hot and slick. Finn's world narrowed to sensation. The scratch of stubble, the flex of muscle under his hands, the groan Ethan let loose when Finn nipped his lower lip. Clothes came off in a frenzy. Finn's shirt yanked over his head, Ethan's discarded like an afterthought. Skin meeting skin in a slide that made Finn whimper. Ethan's mouth trailed down his neck, sucking marks that would bruise purple by morning, hands mapping Finn's back, his hips, dipping lower to palm him through his jeans. God, Finn? Ethan breathed, voice wrecked. Been wanting this. You. For longer than I should. The admission shattered something in Finn, joy and terror colliding as he ground down, friction sparking stars behind his eyes. They moved together, urgent and unpracticed, Ethan's strength pinning him gently, guiding him through waves of pleasure that built like the storm outside. When release hit, it was simultaneous, shattering. Finn spilling over Ethan's fist, Ethan following with a guttural moan muffled against Finn's shoulder. They clung there, slick and spent, the rain a curtain around their revelation. After, in the quiet aftermath, Ethan pulled a throw blanket over them, arms wrapping Finn close. This changes everything, he whispered, fingers tracing lazy patterns on Finn's back. Finn nodded, burrowing into his chest, the steady thump of Ethan's heart a lullaby. For the first time, sleep came easy, wrapped in the man who'd always been his anchor. But dawn brought clarity, and with it, doubt. Ethan woke first, slipping from the couch to make coffee, his back to Finn as he stared out the kitchen window. When Finn approached, towel around his waist from a quick shower, Ethan turned, expression guarded. Last night, it was intense, real. But we're brothers, Finn. Blood. The words landed like blows, and Finn's stomach dropped, the warmth from hours ago curdling to ice. I know, Finn managed, voice small, but Ethan shook his head, setting the mug down hard enough to slosh. Doesn't make it right. Doesn't make it sustainable. He raked a hand through his hair, eyes pained. I love you, man, more than anything. But this? It's a line we can't uncross without losing each other. Finn reeled, the rejection a knife twist, even as Ethan's hand cupped his cheek in farewell. Give me time to figure this out. And just like that, the fragile bridge they'd built crumbled, leaving Finn adrift in the wreckage of what could have been. The days that followed were a study in avoidance. Ethan took extra shifts, coming home late with excuses about traffic on I-5, crashing on the couch with a grunt instead of the bed. Finn buried himself in work, picking up doubles at the cafe, the steam and chatter a buffer against the silence at home. When they did cross paths, it was polite, passing the salt at breakfast, a nod over the remote. But the air crackled with unsaid words, the ghost of that night haunting every glance. Finn's friends noticed. At a low-key gathering at a dive bar in Fremont, nursing a whiskey sour under neon lights shaped like trolls, his best friend Marcus, tall, bearded, with a tattoo of the Space Needle on his forearm, clapped him on the back. You look like shit, dude. What's eating you? Girl trouble. Finn laughed it off, bitter on his tongue, but later, in the bathroom mirror, he saw the truth. Shadows under his eyes, lips still swollen from phantom kisses. He texted Ethan that night, "You home?" But the reply was hours in coming, "Out with the crew. Don't wait up." Jealousy festered, irrational and sharp. Who were these crew? Straight-laced construction guys from Texas? Probably, swapping stories of conquests while Ethan nursed his straight facade. Finn paced the empty house, rain lashing the windows again, picking up Ethan's discarded shirt from the laundry. Soft cotton, carrying his scent, and pressing it to his face until tears blurred the weave. This was pathetic, clinging to fabric like a lifeline. But the ache was bone deep, the love he'd hidden for years now exposed and starving. A week in, the dam broke during a mundane argument over dishes. Ethan slammed a plate into the drying rack, suds flying. Just wash your own damn stuff, Finn. I'm not your maid. Finn whirled from the fridge, milk carton in hand. You're not even here half the time. What? Scared of what we did? Of me? Ethan's face hardened, jaw clenching. It's not that simple. Society, family, hell, our own heads. You think I don't feel it too? But acting on it? That's a one-way ticket to hell, little bro. The endearment stung, infantilizing the man who'd writhed beneath him days ago. Finn's vision blurred with hot tears. Then why'd you start it? Why kiss me like that if you were just gonna run? Ethan deflated, shoulders slumping as he gripped the counter. Because I'm weak. Because you're everything. But love like that, it destroys. He reached out, then dropped his hand, turning away. I need space. Maybe crash with Jake for a bit. Jake, his old high school buddy in Ballard, the one with the boat and the endless supply of IPAs. Finn nodded numbly, the milk forgotten as it soured on the counter. Fine. Go. The door clicked shut behind Ethan an hour later, duffel in hand, his truck fading into the night. Alone, Finn sank to the floor, sobs racking him until his throat rawed. The house, once a haven, echoed with absence. The creak of empty stairs, the silence where Ethan's laugh should be. He curled into the bed that still smelled of them, sheets tangled from that night, and wept for the brother he'd lost to his own desire. Healing didn't come easy. It clawed its way in, piecemeal. Finn threw himself into routines. Morning runs along the waterfront, the slap of his sneakers on the path sinking with his ragged breaths, salt air stinging his lungs. At the cafe, he flirted harmlessly with a regular. A cute graphic designer named Theo, all freckles and easy smiles, but it felt hollow, a shadow play of what he craved. Nights were worst, scrolling Ethan's sparse socials. A photo of him at a bar with the crew, arm around a woman whose laugh lines matched his, caption back to basics. Finn's thumb hovered over block, but he couldn't. Addiction to the pain, perhaps, or hope's stubborn root. 2 weeks blurred by, Thanksgiving looming like a specter, the city decking itself in lights that mocked Finn's darkness. He hosted a small dinner, Marcus and a couple others, turkey from the co-op roasted unevenly, pie store-bought. Laughter filled the rooms, but Finn's smiles were brittle. Excuses pulling him to the porch for smokes he didn't want. Marcus cornered him there, joint passed between them under the eaves. Spill it, Finn. This isn't you. So he did, in fragments, the hookups, the fallout, the incestuous tangle that tasted like taboo. Marcus listened, eyes wide but kind, exhaling smoke into the chill. That's heavy, man. But love doesn't follow rules. If it's real, fight for it. Finn nodded, but doubt lingered. What if fighting meant losing everything? Ethan's text came at midnight, post-feast stupor. Miss you. Can we talk? Finn's hands shook as he typed back porch. Now, the truck pulled up 10 minutes later, headlights cutting the dark. Ethan stepping out in a wool coat, breath fogging. He looked wrecked, stubble thicker, eyes ringed. But when he pulled Finn into a hug, it was fierce, unyielding. I'm sorry, Ethan whispered into his hair. For running. For making you feel like this was wrong. Finn clung, inhaling cedar and regret. It is wrong, but it feels right. They sat on the steps, shoulders touching, words tumbling out. Ethan's confusion post-divorce, the bi-curiosities he'd buried under straight man armor, the fear of labels in a world quick to judge. I want you, Finn. All of you. But only if we do this right, slow, honest. Finn's heart swelled, tentative hope blooming. Together. Ethan's smile was small, real. Yeah, together. They didn't kiss that night, but the hand Ethan laced with his said enough. A promise etched in calluses and care. The storm had passed, leaving clearer skies, and for the first time, Finn believed they could navigate it. Not as brothers bound by blood alone, but as lovers forging their own path. Winter gripped Seattle like a jealous lover, frosting the evergreens and turning breaths to visible ghosts. Ethan moved back in that weekend, duffel thudding on the entry floor, a tentative truce in the air. No more couch. They shared the bed platonically at first, bodies on their sides of the invisible line, but touches multiplied. Fingers brushing over breakfast cereal, Ethan's hand on Finn's lower back guiding him through crowded aisles at Pike Place. It was courtship in code, rebuilding trust brick by brick. Finn's shifts eased to normal. The cafe's holiday rush a whirlwind of gingerbread lattes and tips stuffed in jars shaped like reindeer. Theo the designer asked him out one slow afternoon, eyes hopeful over a flat white, but Finn declined with a gentle smile. Complicated, he said, and Theo nodded. No hard feelings, just a lingering pat on the hand that felt like permission to choose himself. That night, he told Ethan over stir-fry in the kitchen, veggies sizzling in the wok. Proud of you? Ethan replied, plating food with care, his gaze soft. Later, in bed, Ethan's arm draped over Finn's waist from behind. A spoon without the heat. Just presence, solid and sure. But doubt's shadow lingered, fed by Ethan's silences. He'd wake from nightmares, body rigid, muttering about the ex's betrayal, and Finn would soothe him with whispers, hands stroking his chest until breaths evened. "She didn't deserve you," Finn would say, and Ethan would pull him closer, murmuring thanks into his hair. Yet in daylight, Ethan pulled back, joking about keeping it PG, when their kisses threatened to ignite. Finn understood the weight of societal eyes, the internalized shame, but it chafed, a slow burn under his skin. Christmas Eve brought the first real test. They drove to their aunt's in Tacoma, the I-5 a ribbon of taillights under leaden skies. Aunt Lila's house was a time capsule. Tinsel-draped tree, eggnog spiked heavy, cousins swapping stories by the fire. Ethan fit seamlessly, charming the room with tales of Texas Yule logs and his kid brother, Finn's penchant for ugly sweaters. Finn played along, cheeks warm from spiked cider, but under the table, Ethan's knee pressed against his, a secret anchor. Later, in the guest room they shared to save space, the door locked with a click that echoed like thunder. Ethan turned to Finn in the dark. "Been dying to do this all night." His kiss was slow, deliberate, hands framing Finn's face as if memorizing contours. They undressed by moonlight filtering through lace curtains, exploring with reverence. Ethan's lips on Finn's collarbone, Finn's teeth grazing Ethan's hip. It was tender, unhurried, bodies aligning in a dance of rediscovery. When Ethan entered him, careful and deep, Finn arched, tears pricking his eyes not from pain but from the fullness of it. Love made manifest, raw and real. They lay tangled after, Ethan's fingers combing through Finn's damp hair. "This is us," he whispered. "No more hiding." Finn believed him, sleep claiming them in a cocoon of shared warmth. New Year's dawned crisp. Resolutions whispered over black-eyed peas from a recipe Lila pressed upon them. Ethan enrolled in night classes at Seattle Central, construction management, a step toward stability, and Finn applied for a promotion at the cafe, dreaming of managing his own spot someday. Their life wove together, mundane miracles. Grocery runs where Ethan pushed the cart, Finn tossing in impulse buys. Lazy Sundays binging The Last of Us, Ethan's head in Finn's lap, fingers idly tracing tattoos neither had yet. But the world intruded, subtle at first. Ethan's coworker, a burly guy named Reyes from the site, dropped by unannounced one Saturday with a six-pack, slapping Ethan on the back. "Heard you're shacked up again, bro. Who's the lucky girl?" The assumption hung, and Ethan's laugh was too sharp, his glance at Finn fleeting. "Nah, just crashing with family." Reyes nodded, oblivious, but Finn excused himself to the kitchen, heart pounding. Later, alone, he confronted Ethan by the sink, sponge forgotten in his hand. "Family? That's all I am." Ethan sighed, drying his hands. "It's easier this way, for now." The words stung, a regression to old patterns, and Finn stormed out, walking the blocks to Cary Park under gathering clouds. The skyline glittered, Space Needle piercing the dusk like a needle to his complacency. But it felt distant, a postcard life. His phone buzzed. "Come home, please." He did, finding Ethan on the porch, coat open to the chill, eyes red-rimmed. "I'm scared," Ethan admitted, pulling Finn down beside him. "Of losing the guys, the job. Of what people would say if they knew." Finn's anger softened to empathy, hand finding Ethan's. "Then we build it slow. But don't lie about us. Not to me." They talked until stars pricked the sky, forging a pact. Honesty in private, discretion in public, steps toward a future where they stood hand in hand. January thawed into February, Valentine's a quiet affair. Chocolate from the market, a bottle of Pinot by the fire pit in the backyard. Ethan surprised Finn with a leather-bound journal. "For your stories," he said, knowing Finn's scribbled poems in margins. Finn's gift was simpler. A silver chain with a pendant shaped like the Puget Sound, So you carry home with you. They made love on the rug, slow and worshipful, bodies speaking what words sometimes fumbled. Yet cracks widened. Ethan's classes ramped up, late nights at the library leaving Finn alone with takeout and TV's glow. Texts grew sparse, stuck in traffic turning to sorry, lost track of time. Finn filled the voids with runs, pushing harder along the locks, lungs burning as doubt whispered. He's pulling away again. One night, coming home to an empty house, he found Ethan's phone charging on the counter, a notification lighting the screen. A message from Reyes. Party at mine Friday. Bring the girl, need wingman stories LOL. Finn's stomach knotted, the casual erasure a slap. When Ethan stumbled in at midnight, textbooks under arm, Finn was waiting, arms crossed. Who's the girl, Ethan? Me? Or some ghost you're pretending I'm not? Ethan's face paled, defensiveness flaring. It's just talk. You know how it is. Doi. Because it feels like you're ashamed. The argument escalated, voices rising over the hum of the fridge. Accusations of cowardice, pleas for patience, until Ethan shouted, I can't just flip a switch. This isn't a rom-com. He stormed out, door slamming, leaving Finn in the echo. Hours later, a knock, soft, hesitant. Ethan on the stoop, rain-slicked, eyes haunted. I hate fighting you. They collapsed onto the couch, Ethan's head in Finn's lap, confession spilling. The fear of by erasure in straight spaces. The therapy app he'd started in secret. I want to be brave. For us. Finn stroked his hair. Forgiveness a quiet tide. We will. Together. Spring hinted at arrival. Cherry blossoms unfurling along University Avenue. But their rhythm faltered. Finn landed the promotion. Shift lead. Keys to the back office. But celebrating felt hollow when Ethan begged off for a guy's night. Paranoia bloomed. Finn checked Ethan's phone once, guilt sour in his throat, finding flirty emojis from a contact labeled Tina Site Office. Harmless or harbinger. The confrontation came mid-April, after a double shift left Finn bone-tired. Ethan was in the shower, steam seeping under the door, when Finn scrolled Instagram. Ethan tagged in a photo at a bar, arm around a brunette, her head on his shoulder, caption old friends, new nights. Rage boiled over. He burst into the bathroom, phone thrust forward. This what discretion looks like? Ethan, towel slipping, snatched it, jaw tight. It's nothing. Coworker. We were all there. But his eyes darted, guilt's tell, and Finn's world tilted. Liar. You're doing it again. Running to straight safety. Ethan dressed in fury, words flying like shrapnel. You push too hard. I need room to breathe. The door slammed, truck roaring away, leaving Finn shattered on the tile, water still running cold. Days stretched to silence, Ethan's things half-packed in the spare room. Finn called in sick, curled in bed, the journal Ethan gave him mocking from the nightstand. Pages blank as his hope. Marcus dragged him out for coffee, listening as Finn unraveled. Give him space but set boundaries. You deserve all in. Wise words, but hollow against the void. Ethan returned on a Sunday, face gaunt, knocking like a stranger. I screwed up, Tina. It was one kiss, drunk stupidity. But it wasn't you I wanted. Confession hung heavy, betrayal's bitter fruit. Finn's heart fractured. Love tainted, trust eroded. How do I believe you? Ethan knelt, hands open. Don't, yet, but let me earn it. Forgiveness was a choice, tentative, laced with therapy sessions they booked together. A queer-affirming counselor in Capitol Hill, unpacking shame's knots. Sessions unearthed depths. Ethan's internalized homophobia from dad's old-school machismo. Finn's fear of abandonment rooted in loss. Progress was incremental. Date nights at hidden speakeasies. Hands intertwined under tables. Ethan coming out to Reyes over beers. Dating my brother. Met with a surprised hug, not scorn. Summer bloomed. Fairies cutting the sound. Their love ripening in stolen moments. But scars lingered. A reminder that healing was jagged, not linear. As pride flags waved along the avenues, Finn wondered if their story would wave too, or fray in the wind. June's sun finally pierced Seattle's veil, turning the city into a haze of barbecues and fairy horns, the air alive with salt and possibility. Finn and Ethan's therapy became ritual. Wednesday evenings in a sunlit office overlooking the market, spilling guts to Dr. Reyes, no relation to the coworker, whose calm voice unraveled their tangles like yarn from a skein. Shame thrives in silence, she'd say, and Ethan would nod, squeezing Finn's hand under the tissue box. Home, they practiced vulnerability. Ethan journaling his fears, Finn reading poetry aloud from the worn volume of Whitman they'd bought together, voices intertwining like bodies in the dark. Public steps were harder. Ethan started with small rebellions, introducing Finn as my partner to a barista at their favorite coffee spot in Ballard, the word hanging proud despite the flush on his cheeks. Finn beamed, heart swelling, and that night they celebrated on the roof deck, city lights sprawling below like fallen stars, Ethan's lips tracing constellations on his skin. "You're my coming out," Ethan whispered, and Finn believed it, the betrayal's echo fading to a dull hum. Work anchored them. Finn's promotion meant longer hours, but perks too. Employee discounts on pastries. A window into the chaotic heart of the cafe where locals swapped stories of tech layoffs and Sounders wins. Ethan aced his midterms, the glow of achievement lighting his eyes during their post-class dinners at a hole-in-the-wall faux joint on International District. "Imagine it," he'd say, chopsticks gesturing wildly. "Me running sites, you owning this place. Us building something." Finn would laugh, but the vision stuck, a blueprint for a life unapologetic. Yet summer's heat bred tempests. Ethan's ex, Sarah, emailed out of the blue. A polite request for closure, coffee in neutral ground. Just to tie loose ends. Ethan showed Finn the message, transparent now. Finn nodded, trust's fragile rebuild demanding it, but anxiety gnawed as Ethan left for the meetup in Pioneer Square. Hours ticked by. Finn cleaned obsessively, scrubbing counters until his knuckles whitened, phone silent. Ethan returned with rain-damp hair. A squall had blown in, and a weight lifted from his shoulders. "She wished us well," said she always knew I was. Fluid. The admission cracked open old wounds for Finn, visions of what-ifs. But Ethan's kiss dispelled them, fierce and claiming. "You're it for me." They tumbled to the bedroom, reclaiming each other with urgency. Bodies slick with sweat and relief, moans swallowed in the downpour outside. Pride weekend arrived like a revelation. Rainbow crosswalks chalked fresh on the streets. They marched hand in hand, Ethan's palms sweaty but steady amid the floats and drag queens belting show tunes. Cheers erupted for a pair of ancient queens locking lips on a stage, and Ethan tugged Finn close, kissing him deep under the confetti rain. Strangers hooped, cameras flashed, and for a heartbeat, Finn saw their future etched in the joy, unhidden, unbreakable. But normalcy's undercurrent pulled. At a post-March barbecue in Marcus's backyard in Georgetown, grills smoking brisket, indie folk strumming from speakers, Ethan's phone buzzed incessantly. "Work," he claimed, but Finn caught snippets. "Yeah, man, next weekend." Laughter too easy. Later, nursing a beer by the fire pit, Finn pressed. "The crew again?" Ethan's evasion, just blowing off steam, lit the fuse. The drive home was thick with silence, broken only by wipers slapping rain. At a red light on Aurora, Finn exploded. "You're doing it again, dipping into that straight world like it's a safety net. Am I not enough?" Ethan gripped the wheel, knuckles white. "It's not that. Habit. Proving I'm still me." Tears stung Finn's eyes. "But you're more now. We're more." They parked crooked in the driveway, arguments spilling into the kitchen. Plates rattling, voices cracking. "You think I don't fight it every day?" Ethan roared. "Coming out to the guys cost me Reyes." He ghosted after. "Happy now." The revelation gutted Finn, guilt crashing over anger. "I didn't know." Ethan sagged against the fridge, defeated. "No one does, because I bury it. For us." They called a truce, therapy emergency booked for Monday. Dr. Reyes mediated, unearthing the betrayal's root. Not infidelity, but Ethan's compartmentalizing, a survival tactic from a youth spent code switching. Homework. Weekly check-ins. No phone zones during dates. It worked incrementally, Ethan deleting apps that fed his isolation. Finn journaling gratitudes. Ethan's laugh at dawn. His hand in mine on the trail. July 4th brought fireworks over Gasworks Park. Blankets spread amid picnickers. Ethan's arm around Finn as bursts painted the sky. They made wishes on the finale. Whispered promises of trips to the San Juans. A house with a view. August cooled with fairs. The King County Show in Puyallup, a whirlwind of cotton candy and livestock smells. Ethan winning Finn a stuffed orca at ring toss. Their laughter free. Fall crept in. Leaves turning gold along the ship canal. Ethan's internship started. A plum gig at a firm in South Lake Union. Suits replacing work boots. Finn trained a new barista. A trans kid named Riley with neon hair and sharp wit. Their banter a bright spot. Evenings, they cooked. Ethan's Texas chili meeting Finn's experimental salads. Talks turning philosophical under the string lights. Identity, legacy, the queer canon from Baldwin to Ocean Vuong. But October's chill carried omens. Ethan's firm hosted a gala. Black tie schmoozing in a Belltown ballroom. Finn rented a tux. Nerves jangling as they entered arm in arm. Heads turning at the brother lovers. Toasts flowed. Ethan's boss clapping his back. Proud to have you, son. But whispers slithered. Incest? Really? Finn overheard in the powder room. A tipsy exec's slurred gossip, and nausea rose. Back at the table, Ethan's hand found his thigh under the cloth. Grounding, but the seed of exposure festered. The fallout hit mid-party. A colleague cornering Ethan by the bar. Heard the rumors. You too. That's fucked up. Ethan's face drained. Fist clenching around his scotch. He defended, calm, cutting, but Finn saw the fracture, the old shame resurfacing. In the cab home, Ethan was silent, then explosive. They're right. We're poison. Finn recoiled, the words a blade. No. They're ignorant. Bed that night was a chasm, Ethan on the edge, back turned. Morning brought apologies over coffee, but distance lingered. Ethan throwing himself into work. Finn into shifts. Conversations clipped. Therapy unearthed it. Internalized judgment. Fear of cancellation in professional circles. We choose our narrative, Dr. Reyes urged. But Ethan wavered, eyes haunted. What if it's too much? November's gray deepened the rift. Thanksgiving at Lila's again. Tension taut as turkey strings. Cousins probed. So, you two still thick as thieves? Innocent but loaded. Ethan deflected with charm, but Finn saw the strain, the way his laugh rang false. Driving back, rain sheeting the windshield, Ethan confessed. Boss pulled me aside. Rumors spreading. Might affect the promotion. Finn's heart sank, the world closing in. We fight it. But Ethan shook his head, pulling over at a viewpoint overlooking the Black Sound. Maybe we pause. For your sake too. This spotlight's burning us. The suggestion was a grenade, exploding their fragile peace. Pause? Like break. Finn's voice broke. Ethan cupped his face, thumbs brushing tears. Just breathe. See if we can stand alone. It was the kindest cruelty, and Finn agreed, numb, the drive home a blur. Ethan moved to the futon that night, the house echoing with ghosts. Days blurred to weeks, polite cohabitation masking agony. Finn's runs longer, Ethan's hours endless. Christmas loomed, lights mocking from neighbors' lawns, and Finn wondered if love could survive the pause, or if it was the beginning of goodbye. December wrapped Seattle in tinsel and chill, holiday markets buzzing with mulled wine and hand-knit scarves. But Finn's world was monochrome. The pause with Ethan a frost that seeped into bones. They navigated the house like roommates from a bad sitcom. Ethan brewing coffee at dawn. Finn slipping out for shifts before the steam cleared. Words were functional. Pass the milk? Rent's due Friday. But eyes lingered, heavy with what-ifs. The bed now Finn's solitary domain. Sheets cold without Ethan's heat. Therapy continued solo for Finn. Dr. Reyes's office a sanctuary of plants and empathy. A pause isn't an end, she said. But Finn's journal filled with doubts. Entries scrawled in the cafe's back room, ink smudged by frustrated tears. He looked at me today, like before. Why does it hurt more now? Marcus hosted game nights, pulling Finn into charades and craft beers. But laughter felt borrowed, his mind drifting to Ethan's truck absent from the drive. Ethan, meanwhile, threw himself into the firm. Late meetings, schmoozing clients over steak at Canlis, his texts to Finn sparse. Working late. Fridge has leftovers. Finn replied politely, but inside, betrayal's echo resounded. Not the kiss with Tina, but this emotional withdrawal, the pause a polite euthanasia of their fire. Christmas Eve, Lila invited them separately, but Finn declined, opting for a solo tree trimming with lights from the attic, ornaments tinkling like accusations. Ethan came home at 10, Ty Askew, bearing a wrapped gift he left on the table without a word. The journal, now half filled with Ethan's looping script, poems of regret, odes to Finn's eyes. Finn read them by candlelight, heart cracking open, and confronted Ethan in the doorway, snow dusting his coat. This is cruel. Giving me pieces when I need the whole. Ethan's eyes glistened, voice rough. I'm trying. The rumors. They're gaining traction. HR called me in. The admission hung, a noose tightening. Finn stepped closer, gift clutched like a shield. Then fight. With me. New Year's brought no resolution. Fireworks over the needle, a ironic burst as they toasted awkwardly with sparkling cider. January thawed the ice slightly. Ethan joining Finn for a hike in Discovery Park. Boots crunching salt-strewn paths, the sound glittering below. Conversation flowed haltingly. Work gripes, a shared laugh over a squirrel's antics. At the lighthouse, wind whipping, Ethan took Finn's hand. I miss us. Simple words, but they unlocked the flood. Hugs turning to kisses, tentative then torrid against the stone wall. Salt on lips from sea spray. They recommitted, the pause a lesson in absence's ache. February rebuilt with intention. Date nights at Hidden Gems. A jazz club in the Central District, Ethan's hand on Finn's knee during solos. A weekend getaway to the Olympics, cabin rented under pines, where they made love by the fire, bodies rediscovering rhythms, whispers of forever sealing the scars. Ethan came out formally to the firm, email to HR, meeting with his boss, braving the backlash with Finn's texts as armor. Proud of you. Always. Spring's renewal mirrored theirs. Finn's cafe thrived under his lead, Riley blooming into a star employee. Their friendship a queer kinship of inside jokes and late-night vents. Ethan landed the promotion, corner office with a view, celebrating with a dinner at their spot in Queen and steak for him, salmon for Finn, champagne toasts to survival. Publicly, they leaned in, linked arms at farmers' markets, Ethan's pride pin glinting on his lapel. But summer's heat tested resilience. Ethan's ex, Sarah, resurfaced, not for reconciliation, but mediation over shared assets. Her lawyer's office in Bellevue a sterile battleground. Sessions dragged, Ethan's tension coiling like a spring, snapping at home over trivialities. Why didn't you text back? Finn endured, but resentment simmered. Sarah's ghost a third wheel, her emails triggering Ethan's shutdowns. The crisis peaked in July, a weekend conference in Portland pulling Ethan away. Finn planned a surprise visit, train ticket booked, hotel near the river, but arrived to find Ethan at a networking mixer, arm around a colleague named Alex, laughter easy in a way that twisted Finn's gut. He waited in the lobby, jealousy a live wire, until Ethan spotted him, face paling.
Finn?
What? The hotel room confrontation was volcanic. Accusations of flirting, defenses of professionalism. Old wounds ripped open. You're still performing, Finn yelled, pacing the carpet. For them, not us. Ethan countered, voice breaking. I'm surviving. This job's our future house, stability. Can't you see? But Finn saw only betrayal's pattern, packing his bag. I see you choosing safety over me. Again. He left on the midnight train, tears blurring the Willamette, heart in tatters. Back in Seattle, isolation hit hard, cafe shifts mechanical, runs pounding pavement to numbness. Marcus staged an intervention over tacos. You're worth more than scraps. But Finn waved it off, diving into apps for distractions. Hookups that left him emptier. Bodies not Ethan's. Ethan returned days later. House dark. Note on the fridge. We need to talk. Please. The reconciliation was raw. Ethan on his knees in the living room, sobbing apologies. Alex was nothing, a shield. But you're my truth. They unpacked it in therapy. Dr. Reyes guiding. Codependency's traps, boundaries as love's frame. Ethan quit the mixers, deleted contacts. Finn set rules, no ex-contact without disclosure. August healed in increments. Couples yoga in Green Lake, breaths sinking. A road trip to the coast, waves crashing as they scattered mom's ashes properly. Hands clasped in grief turned grace. Fall's colors painted forgiveness vivid. Ethan's firm stabilized, rumors dying to murmurs. Finn eyed his own expansion, scouting locations for a second cafe. They hosted Lila for dinner, coming out over pie, her hug fierce. Love's love, boys. No drama, just acceptance's quiet power. But November whispered warnings. Ethan's health scare, a routine check flagging high cholesterol, Dad's shadow looming, forced vulnerability. Hospital waiting room, Finn pacing, Ethan's hand in his. Don't leave me. Never, Finn vowed. The scare a catalyst for deeper bonds. Meal preps together, runs side by side. Winter circled back, holidays approached with hope. They decorated the tree entwined, ornaments symbols of endurance. As snow dusted the sound, Finn realized. Love wasn't absence of storm, but dancing in it. Their story, jagged and true, was theirs to author. The year turned, 2026 dawning with tentative light. Seattle shaking off winter's shroud like an old coat. Finn and Ethan's rhythm steadied, a hard-won cadence forged in fire. Mornings with shared mugs of pour-over, Ethan's lips brushing Finn's temple. Evenings unwinding with podcasts on queer history. Bodies curled on the couch, fingers laced like habit. Therapy tapered to monthly, Dr. Reyes's sign-off a milestone. You've built a foundation. Now live it. Finn's cafe venture crystallized. A pop-up concept, Haven Brew. Testing waters at a food truck pod in Fremont. Lattes infused with local herbs. Queer artists rotating murals on the side. Ethan championed it, crunching numbers after class, his management degree nearing completion. This is you, he'd say, pride lighting his eyes, and Finn would kiss him slow, gratitude a living thing between them. Spring's bloom coincided with milestones. Ethan's graduation. Cap and gown in the UW quad. Finn whooping from the stands. Bouquet of wildflowers thrust into his arms post-ceremony. They celebrated at a rooftop in Belltown. City sprawling below. Ethan's speech slurred with joy. To the man who made me brave. Finn blushed, toasting back. To us, unscripted. Public life bloomed bolder. They volunteered at a youth center in Capitol Hill, mentoring LGBTQ plus teens. Ethan sharing divorce to discovery arcs. Finn facilitating art workshops where kids sketched identities unchained. One evening, a shy boy named Kai cornered Finn. How'd you know it was real? Finn glanced at Ethan across the room, laughing with a group. When it hurts as much as it heals, and you wouldn't trade it. Summer's zenith brought the reckoning. Sarah's mediation concluded. A check cut for Ethan. Final severance from the past. But closure cracked open old fissures. Ethan spiraled, nights pacing the kitchen, whiskey glass sweating. What if I drag you down? He'd mutter, and Finn would pull him to bed, love-making an anchor. Slow grinds turning frantic, releases whispered with vows. The betrayal surfaced subtly. Ethan's phone, left charging. A late-night text from Alex. Miss our talks. Drinks soon? Discreet. Finn's blood ran cold, history's echo. He waited, confrontation brewing like storm clouds over the Cascades. When Ethan came home, Finn held up the screen, voice steady despite the quake. Discreet. Like last time. Ethan's denial crumbled under scrutiny. Admissions of coffee meets. Just friends. But the flirtation's undercurrent undeniable. I was lonely, he confessed, tears streaking. When you were at the pop-up, I slipped. Finn's world fractured anew, trust's edifice crumbling. Lonely? We vowed no secrets. The argument raged. Ethan's pleas for grace. Finn's rage at patterns unbroken. Ending in Finn storming to Marcus's couch, a temporary refuge. Days apart were purgatory. Finn's pop-up thriving on autopilot. Smiles forced for customers. Ethan's calls unanswered. Voicemails raw with regret. Therapy solo again. Dr. Reyes's words steel. Betrayal's not the end if you choose growth. Finn journaled fury. Then forgiveness's seeds. He falls, but rises for me. Reunion came circuitous. Lila's birthday barbecue in Tacoma. Obligation drawing them. Awkward hellos by the grill. But as dusk fell, Ethan pulled Finn aside to the garden. Roses heavy-scented. I quit the firm. Too toxic. Starting freelance. Sites I choose. Life I control. Vulnerability disarmed. And Finn softened, arms opening. Prove it. All in. Fall rebuilt with rigor. Couples counseling intensified. Ethan's amends tangible. Phone transparency. Weekly fear shares over dinner. They traveled to Montana's plains. Ethan's childhood friend hosting at a ranch. Wide skies mirroring open hearts. Nights under stars where Ethan proposed therapy's evolution. Marry me? Not legal yet, but ours. Finn's yes was tear-choked. Rings simple silver bands engraved storm and shore. Winter's grip loosened into holidays laced with promise. Christmas with Lila. Rings flashed proudly. New Year's on a ferry to Bainbridge. Midnight kiss amid cheers. Sound black and boundless. Ethan's freelance bloomed. Projects in sustainable builds. Ethos aligning with Finn's haven. But 2020 SIXS close carried climax. Finn's pop-up went permanent. Lease signed in Pioneer Square. Grand opening a queer jubilee. Drag performances. Local brews. Ethan bartending with flair. Joy peaked, but post-party. A call shattered. Ethan's old boss. Drunk dialing threats. Come back, or I'll spill your family secrets to clients. Blackmail's venom, rooted in homophobia's bile. Ethan froze, panic's grip vice-tight. It'll ruin everything. Finn rallied, fire in veins. Let it, we rebuild. They lawyered up, affordable counsel from the center. Countering with defamation suit, public statement drafted. Our love is our strength. The boss backed down, bluster folding to legal steel, but the scare unearthed depths. Ethan's PTSD from exposure, nightmares of loss. Healing's arc bent toward light. Spring 2027 saw Haven Brew flourish. Finn's name in local rags as queer entrepreneur redefining community. Ethan landed a dream contract, eco-condos in Ballard, green builds for the future. They adopted a rescue dog, a mutt named Puget. Romps in Discovery Park a family anchor. Summer's heatwave tested, but they endured. Beach days at Alki. Volleyball with Marcus's crew, hands brushing sand from skin. Fall brought Vermont whispers. A cabin rental for leaf peeping. Roads winding through amber forests, talks of adoption, legacy beyond blood. Winter closed the circle, anniversary marked by vow renewal in the backyard. Friends circled, Lila officiating with tears. You chose each other, again and again. Rings exchanged anew, kisses sealed under mistletoe strung with lights. Yet the journey's core remained. Love's not linear, but a spiral, wounds scarring to strength. As snow fell soft, Finn in Ethan's arms, he knew. Their story, dramatic and devoted, was human, flawed, fierce, forever. 2027 unfurled like a promise kept. Seattle's perpetual drizzle a gentle underscore to the life Finn and Ethan carved. Haven Brew expanded. A second location scouted in Georgetown. Murals by Kai now a staple. The shy teen blossomed into a barista with poetry slams on slow Sundays. Finn thrived in the chaos. Apron dusted with flour from experimental scones. His laughter genuine as orders flew. Ethan freelanced steadily. Sights rising green and sturdy along the waterfront. His truck a familiar rumble pulling into drives at dusk. Their home evolved too, renovations piecemeal. A deck edition for Puget Zoomies, bookshelves groaning under shared reads, a king bed that swallowed their sprawls. Mornings ritualized, Ethan's eggs scrambled with Finn's herbs, coffee black for one, oat for the other. Nights a tangle of limbs and murmurs, lovemaking evolved to art. Slow mornings tracing freckles, urgent evenings chasing release after long days. Anniversaries marked growth. 1 year from the proposal, they hiked the enchantments, alpine lakes mirroring skies, rings glinting as Ethan knelt again. Still yes. Finn's laugh echoed off peaks. Always. Friends multiplied. Queer couples from the center. Barbecues in backyards where stories swapped like recipes. Vulnerabilities bared over grills. Challenges lingered, subtle as fog. Ethan's freelance dipped in winter slowdowns, stress coiling his shoulders. Finn's expansion stretched thin. Investor meetings a gauntlet of skepticism. Niche market? Huh? But they leaned. Date jars filled with prompts. Picnic at gasworks or stargaze at the observatory. Keeping spark alive amid grind. Spring brought surprise. Lila's diagnosis? Early-stage lymphoma. A shadow over Tacoma visits. They rallied, Ethan driving weekends. Finn packing care kits with teas and books. Her strength a mirror to theirs. Hugs fierce. You boys give me fight. Remission came summer's end. Celebration a clam bake on the beach. Lila toasting. Family's what we make. Fall's harvest yielded reflection. Therapy check-in. Stable, Dr. Reyes affirmed. But nurture the joy. They did. Volunteering evolve to co-leading workshops. Ethan on identity. Finn on creativity. Teens like Kai crediting them. You showed me hiding's heavier than hate. Pride 2028, they rode afloat. Drag queen crowns. Confetti cannons. Ethan's kiss mid-parade viral on local feeds. Comments a mix, hearts and trolls, but their bubble impervious. Winter's hush deepened intimacy. Puget puppied into a loping companion. Walks along the locks where Ethan proposed adoption talks. Foster first, perhaps a sibling for their future. Finn warmed to it. Visions of chaos and love. Holidays with little ones under the tree. Crisis crested subtle. Ethan's old boss resurfaced. Anonymous email to clients dredging rumors. Unstable partnership. Freelance wavered. Bids lost. Ethan spiraled. Whiskey nights returning. Finn found him on the deck. Bottle half empty. Eyes lost.
I'm poison.
Dragging you again. Finn knelt. Hands framing. No. We're alloy. Stronger fused. They pivoted. Ethan pivoting to consulting. Leveraging networks queer built. Finn amplifying Haven's advocacy. Fundraisers for centers. The storm passed. Clients doubling down. Integrity matters. Ethan's pride swelled. Their bonds forge evident. Spring 2029 bloomed triumphant. Haven's third spot. Rural outpost in Snohomish. Farm to cup. Grand opening with Ethan pouring first pour. Lila, cancer-free. Danced with them under strung lights. Summer road trip to Texas. Ethan's roots reclaimed. Barbecue with cousins open-hearted. No secrets. Fall whispered legacy. They fostered first. A teen named Jordan, trans and tough. House alive with banter and board games. Adoption papers filed. Family expanding. Winter closed. 2030's eve on the ferry. Sound silver under moon. Ethan pulled Finn close amid revelers. From that bed, shirtless and scared, to this, our epic. Finn smiled, hazel eyes locking green. Knew what you wanted, gave it all. Their love, dramatic tapestry. Betrayals woven to triumphs, emotions raw as rain. Taught. Humanity's in the mend, romance in resilience. In each other's arms, storms passed. They sailed on, unbroken, unbound.